Well, very good morning, guys. Yeah. Last day we just been started with code first, right? Yeah, code first. We completed everything. So we just created the project. We have executed the project. And once we executed the project, immediately all the tables, procedures, all the tables, first the database is created, under the tables are created. I showed you all these things in the previous session. Finally, where we stopped it? We stopped it with the database initialization strategies. 3 strategies are there. What is the first one? Create database if not exists. What is the meaning of it? If the database is not existing, create it. Second option, drop create database if model changes. Means if there are any changes in the model, then the database is going to be created. If there are any changes in the model, then the database is going to be created. Third option, drop create database only. Irrespective of the model changing, irrespective of the model changes, the database gets recreated every time. Irrespective of the model changes, the database gets recreated each and every time. That's what we call as drop create database always. Okay. So generally, I said you one thing. When you're in the development mode, what we use is drop create database always. And in the middle of the stage, once tables are streamlined and all the things, then we go for drop create database if model changes. Finally, when everything is stabilized and you're about to move to production, then we just use create database if not exists. So by the end, what we'll have is create database if not exists. Fine. What is the default? Create database if not exists. Okay, we can change the two. And how to change them, I shown you. You just require to go to you need to go to the context class, and in the context class you require to write this database.setInitializer new create database if not exist, and here you are required to pass the context class as a parameter for this. And is the default strategy. If you don't set also, this is the default one. Second option, we can do it as drop create database if model changes, drop create database always. Basically, guys, these are all classes. Remember that. They are all classes. Fine. See, we have one more thing called as database.setInitializer null. What is this? Hey, database is created, everything is streamlined now. Finally, what we do is setInitializer null. Means no more changes to the database. So what we call it as turn off the DB initializer. You can even turn off the database initializer. For your application. If you don't want to lose existing data in production environment, then you can turn off initializer as shown below. How to do? Database.setInitializer null. If you do that, no more future changes are going to be permitted for that database. Is that clear? Okay, that is the other option what we have. Fine. Today we learn about conventions here. What conventions? Last day we saw the table got created for us. Primary key constraint came, foreign key constraint came. Data types we just used, it was using int for int, nvarchar for string, correct? And also decimal for money. If it is a bool, it used a bit. On what basis all these things are generated? Okay. See, basically there are some set of conventions that are available for you. What code first will be using while creating the database and tables for you. We call them as code first conventions. First, I'll tell you the existing conventions. Then we'll learn how to override these conventions, how to change it. Say I got the database n varchar. I want it as varchar. The data type is a decimal. For a double we saw decimal. I want it as money. Like how you can change all these particular things, we try to understand. First, let us understand the existing conventions. Then we'll see how to override the conventions. Guys, watch it. The following table is default code conventions. First thing, schema. Where these tables are, where the database is created. Where the database is created. Actually, in SQL Server, you have a server. Basically, you understand, you know the SQL Server architecture. SQL Server architecture, how it will be? You have a server, you have users. Every user will come and create databases. Understand what you have? A server. And then a user. Users will be creating the database on this server. You can create one or n databases. You can create one or n databases. See, the server is like land. The server is like land. And you started building your house now. You can build one house, you can build two houses based on the availability of your land. You can build houses. Got the point? Same way, everyone will be creating their own database. So for every user, the server is open and you can create a database. Okay. So now the point is like, by default, a database will be created for you now. When you're connecting by a user, for every user on the server, some space is allocated. See, all the people, land is there. For every person, some land is available on which your name is registered, correct? You may have some land to build a house and the land is registered on your name. And in that land, you will create one house or two houses or three houses or your choice. And we call that as a schema. We call that as a schema basically. When the land, what is available to you is the schema. And the database, what you are creating is the house. Are you clearer or not? So now, by default, the database will be created for you under the schema of the user. Under the schema of the user, you connected to the server. There is a schema for you, some land. You create a database. So by default, where the database is created, the database is created under the schema of that user. Okay? Who is the owner of the schema means? We call it as a DBO, database owner. Have you seen an SQL server? It will show you DBO dot. The DBO stands for database owner. So by default, EF creates all the database objects into the DBO schema. Into the schema that is associated with the user, the database will be created. Next, table name. What is the table name? Pluralization. Remember, entity name? Yes. For product visa, products. For category visa, categories. Basically, it uses pluralization here. Entity class name plus yes. EF will create a database table with the entity class name suffixed by yes. For example, student domain class entity would map to students table. Already we saw in the last class. Annie, koncham lagu. Atu. Idi kuda. Koncham idutoi. Ee line unchla. Okay. Okay. So that's what. So basically, what do you notice? Your entity class name plus yes. Already we saw in the last session. Primary key column. What will be the primary key column of the table? Actually, it searches for a column with the name called ID or entity name ID. Two options here. First option, a column with the name ID or entity name ID. You noticed it in product given the name as ID, in category I given the name as category ID. Array, any of these two, that's it to make you understand about that only in one table given in one way and another table given here in another way. So see, with the primary key column, a property with the name ID. Second option, entity class name plus ID, case insensitive, not case sensitive here. EF will create a primary key column for the property name ID or entity name plus ID. Did you get my point? That's it to make you clear only in product table I given the name as ID. In category table I given it as category ID. And when I use that, I did not tell anywhere, but automatically those columns became the primary key columns. Why those columns became the primary key columns? Because That is the entity framework code first convention. That's a convention already available there. That's the reason why you got it automatically. Next, foreign key property name. So what will be the foreign key? Remember, we even did not tell what is the foreign key column. We even did not tell what is the foreign key column, but foreign key column came automatically now. So how will entity framework identify this? By default, entity framework look for a foreign key property with the same name as the principal entity primary key name. Means what entity framework is going to look? What is the parent table? Parent table is category ID. Correct? Now in the child table, do you have a column with the name category ID or not? Tell me. You have it now? Because you have it as a category ID, entity framework will automatically treat that as a foreign key now. Entity framework will automatically treat that as a foreign key now. So I don't require to tell it anywhere. These are the conventions what I'm telling you. Based on the conventions, entity framework will identify, okay, this should be the foreign key because the column name in the parent table and the column name in the child table are matching. You may have a doubt. How will it recognize the parent and the child tables? How will it recognize which one is the parent and which one is the child? Based on the navigation properties. Based on the navigation properties. When you're defining the navigation properties, do you remember for category we said what? For every category we have multiple products, correct? And for every product we have one category. Based on that entity framework recognized what is the parent? The parent is category, child is product. Don't put lazy faces here. I'm talking with you only. You put sad faces. It's irritating me. Understood? One thing is entity framework will identify based on the names here. Now, sorry, navigation properties. When you see the navigation property, when the property name is going to be, when the property is going to be a collection, then that will be the parent. When the property is a scalar, that will be the child. So based on that entity framework recognized. Now it will check. In the parent, we have a column called as a category ID. So in the child also do we have it? Yes, found. Then automatically category ID will become the foreign key column in the child table now. That's what. By default, entity framework look for a foreign key property with the same name as the principal entity primary key name. If the foreign key property does not exist, what it will do, you know? Then entity framework creates an foreign key column in the table with a department navigation property name. What is the navigation property name? Department. Navigation property name is department underscore principal primary key property name. For example, entity framework will create category underscore category ID foreign key column in products table if the product entity does not contain a foreign key property. What I mean to tell is, listen. Look here. This is the category. Here you had a collection property now. Based on this, it will recognize it. This is the parent. And here what you have? Scalar. So based on it, it will recognize this is the child. One parent can have multiple childs. One child can have only one parent. Correct? So this is the point. So category. And here you define what? Products. Collection of product, not product, a collection of product. So based on that, what is the parent and what is the child? See now, here we have created a column called category ID. And here what is the entity name? Category. So automatically it will consider this as a primary key column. But when you come to the second table, we did not give product ID. Second option, ID. Understood? Next, foreign key. See, what is the primary key in the parent table? Category ID. Now, when you come to the child table, here also we have category ID now. So automatically this is taken as a foreign key. Suppose if I don't have this, if I don't have this, NT framework will add you a foreign key column now. What is the name of the foreign key, The navigation property name underscore the parent table primary key column. So what is the name now? Category underscore category ID column will automatically be added if I don't define this. Did you understand me or not? Okay, just a second. We'll do one thing. Drop create database. Create. Name is not coming. Drop create database always. So every time it will drop and recreate the database to you. Every time it is going to drop and recreate the database to you. Okay, run this. Yeah, we are getting an error here because we commented the category ID there. Just for the time being, all I want to show you what will happen. That's why I put this in the comment. Let's go to categories. When you click on the categories, then it is going to recreate the database for you. Then it is going to create the database for you. Okay, yeah, database is recreated here. See, data is lost. Why? Database is recreated. If you come here and observe, the database name is TollDB, right? Check. I did not add this column. Are you clear? Who added? NT framework added. What will be the name? Category underscore category ID. Category underscore category ID. And remember, this category is the navigation property name. Category ID is the foreign key column name of the parent table. Based on that will be the name what you will be getting here. That only it said you here. What is it? Navigation property name underscore principal entity primary key property name. Category underscore category ID. Proven that? Next. Null columns. What columns will be null? What columns will be null? Because here if you see, some columns are null, some columns are not null. Yes or not? Some columns are null, some columns are not null. See, this is null. This is a nullable column. So what columns are null and what columns are not null? Key columns are always not null. Key columns are always not null. When you come to reference types are also null. Reference types are also null. Okay. Now when you come to value types are by default nullable or non-nullable? Value types are by default nullable or non-nullable? Value types are by default non-nullable. If you want to make it nullable, you require to use question mark. Value types are by default non-nullable. Because value types are by default non-nullable, because they are non-nullable, if you are using a value type, it will be not null for you. If it is a nullable value type, then it will be null. That is based on the data type. Null or not null is decided based on the data type actually. See, by default, EF creates a null column for all reference types. All reference types are nullable. And nullable value type properties, example, string, nullable int, or int question mark, student, all these are considered as reference types. So, sorry, reference type, string and student are reference type, and nullable int or int question mark is a nullable value type. So all this will have what? Null. Means they are by default nullable. Then what about not null? What will be the not null columns? Primary key and non-nullable value type properties like int, float, decimal, date, time, all these are not null. See there? Discontinued. Not null. Why? Bool we have used it there. We have used bool there. And we said bool. We did not use bool question mark. What do we use this bool? Means value type. By default value type doesn't accept a null value. So not null. If I want null here, when I'm declaring what should I write? Bool question mark. If I use bool question mark, here what we'll get is null. What next? DB column order. I think here what will be the column sequence? The column sequence entity framework will create DB columns in the same order like properties in an entity class. However, primary key columns will be moved first. Order won't change here. Only thing is primary key columns will come first. That's all. What next? Property mappings to database. What this is? I want a property in my class, but I don't want a column in my table. Did you understand me? I want a column in my class. I want a property in my class, but I don't want a column in my table. If that is on the top of the property, we can use one attribute called as not mapped. Not mapped. When we say not mapped, what happens, you know? A column will not be created for this in the database. A column will not be created for this in the database. For example, look here. Let's go to product, and on the top of it I'm writing, what's it? Not mapped. Not mapped. If I use this, oh sorry, not here. There is an navigation property here. Not mapped. Because it is not mapped here, entity framework is not going to create you a column for you under the table. Got the point? I want it in my code, but I don't want it in my table. So just use not mapped. And cascade, delete, and update. You know, like in SQL Server, you learned about this one, like foreign key constraint. In C# also explained you. When you're using the foreign key constraint, we have a set of rules. On delete, no action. On update, no action. On delete, cascade. On update, cascade. On delete, set null. On update, set null. And on delete, set default. And on update, set default. When you're creating a foreign key constraint, to use these rules. What is the default rule in SQL Server? Delete, no action. On update, no action. Okay, but when you come to entity framework will use the default rule as on delete cascade and on update cascade. Even in ADO.NET also you learned your default rule is cascade only. When you go to SQL Server, default rule is no action. But in ADO.NET also I taught you. In Windows programming you learned ADO.NET. There also we discussed like the default rule is cascade. Here also. Now when you are creating a foreign key and primary key and a foreign key, the default rule will be cascade. It means if you delete a record in the parent, the corresponding records will be deleted in the child. If you update the primary key column in the parent, the corresponding foreign key column value also will be updated. That's what we call as a cascade rule. That's the default rule. So these are all the default conventions here. These are all the default convention. That's what I said to you here. You're putting a sad face like you're reasoning some horror story. It's irritating. That's what I'm telling you. Put some smiling face here. Oh, sad face for everything. Are you clear? These are the conventions what NT framework is going to follow. Am I clear? Okay. So basically, sir, can I change this convention? Yeah. You can change these particular conventions. Drop, create, database, model changes. This also performs same operation, right, as we change the model class. Yes. When we change the model class, drop, create, database, and model changes also will do the same thing. When we change the model, drop, create, database, model changes also will recreate the database for you. Okay. Yeah. So these are the default conventions. Next. Same way, default conventions for data types also will learn. Default conventions for data types. Look guys, if C# data type is integer, the mapping SQL server data type is integer. String. You saw in the last class. Decimal. Decimal of 18, 12. You are using decimal. Here it is decimal of 18, 12. Last day, you see unit price what I used. And yesterday I shown you the column in the database, decimal of 18, 2. What is that? Precision and scale. Total 18 digits. 2 after the decimal. 18, 2. If you use float, what is equal to array? Real. Right array. You saw it already in the last class. Date time. Date time only. Full. We checked out this also. Byte. Tiny integer. Short. Small int. Long. Big int. Array. C# has 4 integer types now. What is it? Byte, short, int, long. In SQL Server also we have. What is this? Tiny int, 1 byte, small int, 2 bytes, int, 4 bytes, big int, 8 bytes. If it's a double, the data type will be float here. Remember guys, these data types will throw you exception. They don't have a mapping data type. Means you cannot use char, you cannot use sbyte, and you cannot use object. I want the data type of my property as object. There is no mapping type for you available in SQL Server. So it will throw you error. If I use a char or sbyte or object, it will throw you error. Be careful. Got it up? Next. Now, can I change these conventions now? As NT framework is following some conventions. We saw those conventions. Can I change those conventions? Yes, you can do that with the help of data annotations. Remember data annotations? I already explained you data annotations are used in 2 different scenarios. One, when you want to do data validations on the UI, we use data annotations. Second thing also I said you explained you there. We use data annotations in entity framework also. When I teach you entity framework, I'll tell you I said. We can use annotations in entity framework also. Remember, we have a set of annotations provided to you. We can just use those particular annotations to override the default conventions. Got it? These annotations are available for you under 2 namespaces. One namespace I already explained you. What is that? System.componentModel.data annotations. And another namespace is also there. System.componentModel.data annotations.schema. One namespace we already learned here. System.data annotations.componentModel.data annotations. On the UI we used it already. Second one, system.componentModel.data annotations.schema. 2 namespaces. Under these 2 namespaces, we are provided with a set of annotations that we can use. Okay. First one. Tomorrow, in your column, in your class here, you don't have a column called ID, or you don't have a column called entity name ID. Then NT framework has a confusion. What column should be the primary key column now? Are you getting me? You defined a property called XYZ and you want that as a primary key now. On the top of the property, you can write now what key. This is specifying your own key column. This is how you can specify your own key column. Okay, timestamp. What is timestamp? Actually, I don't know whether you have thought about this in SQL Server or not. In SQL Server here, We have a data type called as timestamp. In SQL Server, we have a data type called as timestamp. We don't store any values into it manually. What is the use of that column, When you create a column with the data type as a timestamp in SQL Server, when you create a column with the data type as timestamp, we cannot insert or update that at all. But what is the need of the column, First time when you insert it, the timestamp value will come with the date and time when you insert it. Next, whenever you modify the record, the timestamp also will be changing now. Means to identify when this is last modified. When this is last modified, in SQL Server they use something called as timestamp. Suppose you want to add a timestamp column for your table. Okay, you can use on the top of your property. You can say this is a timestamp column. So automatically the timestamp column will be added to the table for you. Next, concurrency checks. We'll discuss on that. Required, this? Required, yeah. Mandatory field means what? When I use required, then it is going to add a not now. A name column, I said required, then it will be not now. See, can be applied to your property to specify that the corresponding column is a not null column in the database. Earlier we used not null on the UI to say mandatory field, but now you are using not null to say this is a not null column in the table. Next, min length. You can tell the minimum length here for varchar columns and all. You can tell the minimum length can be applied to a property to specify the minimum length allowed in the corresponding column in the database. Minimum length. Same way, max length. Same way we have string length also. We have minimum length, we have maximum length, we have string length. You can apply all these things. I'll show you practically how do we use it. Based on that, we can specify what should be the minimum length, what should be the maximum length, and what should be the string length. See, varchar of 50. That is a string length. Okay, how to use, I'll show you. The second namespace is, what is the second namespace? Component model dot schema. Under this namespace, we have a set of attributes. What is this? Table. What is this? Actually, categories is our class name, but table name is, category is our class name, but table name is categories. Product is my class name, but table name is, no, I want to create the table name with called as a category only, not as categories. I can use this attribute now and tell what should be my table name. I can use this and tell what should be my table name. Okay, I can use this, I can tell what should be my column name. I'll show you practically, hold on. I can use this attribute to tell I wanted to create an index on this column. See guys, in SQL Server, if at all you want to create an index on a column, you say create index, index name, column name. With this, SQL Server will create an index for you. Now you can use index on the property now, and you can say, I want an index on this column. You can tell what should be the foreign key column name. I already explained you this one, not map. Database generated. What is this? This is to tell whether you want a auto generation or not. Primary key column, last day we remember auto generated. I don't want auto generation. I can use this and say, I don't want a auto generation. Okay. Inverse property. Well, this can be applied to a property. Specify the inverse of the navigation property that represents the other end of the same relation. Nothing here. You can define what should be the primary key and what should be the foreign key. That's called inverse. Complex type. Marks the cost as a complex type in EF6. EF core 2 doesn't support the attribute. Generally, you know simple types and complex types, no? Or you know simple types and complex types basically. Class is a complex type. Generally, you will define class. Customer class, it's a complex type. Okay. So basically, for one property, you are using the type as a class. Then you say it as a complex type. Unfortunately, this is not supported in SQL Server. What do you mean by this? Yes, yeah. In Oracle, we have a concept of complex types. Means in Oracle, we can create our own types. But unfortunately, that facility is not available in SQL Server. SQL Server doesn't have an option of creating your own types. But in Oracle, we have an option to create our own types now. Understood my point? See, I want to create a table. Not possible in SQL Server, but possible with Oracle. I want to create a table. Department ID, name of the department, location of the department, and one more column here called as EMPS. So what it should show, department number 10, name of the department, location, and all the employees in 10. What should come in this column, all the employees, suppose the 10 employees are there, all the 10 should come. All the 10 means employee ID, employee name, job, salary, everything should come. Means this column should hold 4 values in it again. This column should hold 4 values in it. What are the 4 values? Employee ID, employee name, job, salary. So in Oracle, we have an option called type creation. You can create your own type. You can create a table type. You can create a table type, and that can be used as a data type for this column. So that every row will internally contain one table in it again. But that facility is not available in SQL Server. If tomorrow in such scenarios, if you have that, then we can use the concept of complex type. Okay? These are the conventions what entity framework is going to have, guys. These are the, I said about the existing conventions, and next how to override the conventions to you. You can override this particular conventions. How to override the conventions is the second thing what we are trying to understand here. So first, we saw existing conventions. Now let us just go for using these annotations and override the default conventions. How to override these default conventions, we'll see. To test this, let's create one project. I did not say anything about concurrency. Let us test all these things with a new project. Create a new project. Asp.Net web application. Yeah, I'm giving the name as code first to create. MVC create. Now, let us create one model class with the name as student. So the table should be student now. Add a class. My model class name is student. Now tell me, if my model class name is student, what will be the table name? Louder, students, but I want it as a student only. I want it as student only. Okay, watch what I'm doing. Using system dot component model dot data annotations. Using system dot component model dot data annotations dot schema are the 2 namespaces what I'm just importing right now. Is that clear? The 2 namespaces are what I'm importing. And what's your requirement now? You want the student as a table name, correct? Huh? You can tell it on the top like table. So create me a table with the name as student, not with the name as students. I'm overriding the default convention. Got the point? I'm overriding the default convention. The default convention what we have here is just now overridden by the NT framework right now. Are you clear? Okay, I'm just trying to override the things. Suppose your name is something like a supplier. The name what will be getting is suppliers. Okay, so that I can just tell on the top of the class like I want it as supplier only. Got the point? Okay, just a second here. In my notes. Oh, I used supplier here, not student. Okay, let us change it. Not a problem. This model class name is student. I want to rename it as supplier. No issues. Rename supplier. Okay, here also. What should be the name? Supplier. I can just override the default convention. You're specifying what? Table name. What should be the table name? And to do that, first I imported the two namespaces. Remember, what are the two namespaces? Data annotations and data annotations.schema. Next, tell me. What should be the primary key column name according to the default conventions? What should be the primary key column name according to the default conventions? Either ID or supplier ID. I already said you either ID or supplier ID. But I want it as SID. I want it as SID. Now I'm writing public int SID. Now there is a problem, guys. What is the problem? It could not recognize the primary key column now. There is no primary key column. The primary key column name can either be ID or supplier ID. But what did you give? SID. SID means it doesn't know what is that. Understood my point? So I can tell this is my primary key column. How to tell? Key. When I say key, I'm telling this is my key column, primary key column. As we saw, it has identity starting from starting value for identity 1 incremental by 1 comma 1. And I don't want this identity at all. I don't want this identity at all. Okay, watch. Database generated. Database generated. So basically this database generated takes different options to you. What is this? None means I don't want an identity. Now default is this only. Computed. What is this computed? You know, computed columns in SQL. Basic column value is dynamically calculated. Suppose I have a fees column in the table and the fees or a salary column in an employee table. The salary column contains monthly salary. Besides that, I can add another column called annual salary as a computed column. What is annual salary? Monthly salary into 12. So now if I enter the salary, automatically monthly salary will come there. That is called as a computed column. If at all you want to add any column as a computed, you can use this. You don't want identity, use this option. Someone asked yesterday, sir, identity, can I define my values? No, you cannot. Identity always starts with 1 comma 1, that cannot be changed. Okay. So now I'm using what? None. So this is not having a identity now. This is not having a identity. Clear? What next? The next thing is I want another column, supplier name. I want another column, another property, supplier name. Okay, let's see. Public string. What is the property name I'm using? Supplier name. Get set. Now what will be the column name? Column name also will be supplier name now. Column name also will be a supplier name. Tell me, this is a null column or not null column? Null column, but I want it as not null. I want this column to be not null. If you want this column as not null, you can use a required attribute on it now. If it's a required attribute, automatically it is going to become a not null column. Okay. Now, one more thing. What is the max length it is using? Hey, what are you watching? Yeah. Last day I showed you n varchar of max. The max length is n varchar of max. Max means? Why I'm scolding you? Completer of SQL server. You don't know what is max. 2 GB. The max is 2 GB for the column value. It's going to be 2 GB. The highest value is 2 GB. Varchar of max, n varchar of max, binary of max. The max indicates the highest size. That is 2 GB. I don't want 2 GB here. Name just 100 characters for me. That's all. Name is going to be 100 characters for me. That's all. More than that, I don't want now. I can tell. Max length. Watch. Max length. You can tell the max length. Max length 100. Max length is 100. Okay. One more thing. Just watch. There is an attribute called column. Using this attribute, you can tell what should be the actual column name in the table. If you don't tell supplier name, no guys, I want the column name in the table as yes name. I want the column name in the table as yes name. Okay. Next, you can even tell what is the data type you want to use. Type name is equals to varchar. Now see what will be the column name in the table? Yes name, varchar of 100. Yes name, varchar of 100. If I don't tell that, what is it? Yeah, supplier name, n varchar of max. But now it is going to take the limitation for the size also. Okay, you can see, yeah. ID and name, these are the two things what I used. Supplier. Guys, one more thing. I want to create two tables now also. Parent-child tables. Parent table is supplier. Child table is customer. Do you understand me? Parent is supplier. Child table is customer. Like one supplier is associated with multiple customers, but every customer has one supplier. Customer can have multiple suppliers also, but let us treat like this. What is it? One supplier can have multiple customers, but let us think like every customer will have one supplier only. One supplier only is permitted. Okay, let us assume like. So this is my parent. What will be the child? Customer. For every supplier we have customers now. So here you need a collection property then. What should be the property? Public. I collection. What should come? Customer. Name. Customers. Error coming there. Why? You still did not define this customer yet. That's why you're getting the error. But customers is the property name. Which type? Customer collection of. So now you understand? One supplier can have multiple customers. Let us also add the customer class. Customer. Yeah, once you define the customer and come back, here this error should be vanished. See now, the error is vanished here. Why? You already specified that now. Already existing, the class is existing. Okay, come back here. Again, the two namespaces I'm importing. One, system dot component model dot data annotations. System dot component model dot data annotations dot schema. Okay, next. What is this? Customer. I want the table name as a customer only, not as customers. Okay, let's specify how. Table. What should be the name? Customer. Table is customer. What next? Yeah, I want to tell you this. Column order, I said, in what order you define it, that order columns will be created, except the primary key column comes to the top. I'll preview that also. I don't want to define the primary key column on the first. I want to define somewhere in the middle. First, I'm defining a property like For a customer, I want to define a property called as balance. I want to define a property called as balance. Okay. So public, guys, decimal. Decimal will be nullable or non-nullable? Not null. I'm using question mark. So that I have a not null on my table now. My column name I'm using is balance. Customer balance. Get set. Okay. This is my things. And what will be the data type? Decimal of 18,2, right? But I want it as money. I want it as money. How do you write? Column. Data type is equals to money. So now you understand the data type of your column is going to be money now, not data type here. Sorry. Type name is equals to. Wrong. Type name is equals to. Yeah, I'm wrong. Type name is equals to money. Understood? So what will be the data type? Balance, money. Balance will be money. What next? Will you go with the customer name? Public, string, customer name. Get set. What should we use as a column name? I want to use a column name as CNAME, not as customer name. Data type, varchar, max length 50. Max length 50. So first I'll say max length. What is the max length I'm giving? 50. Next, column. Give your column name, CNAME, comma, type name. What is the type name? Varchar. Type name is varchar. All of you observe this one. Eh? This column attribute, if I don't tell the column name, this only will be taken as a column name. See here, I did not tell the column name here, but I specified the column name here. If I specify the column name, that name will come for you automatically. If I don't specify the column name, then what will happen? The column name will be the same name of your property. And I want this also to be a mandatory field. I want this to be a mandatory field. Okay, you can use required. So because I used required, remember customer name string. String is nullable, right? Now it will be not null. Now it will be not null. Okay, next. I want to create a index on this column. I want to create a index on this column. Generally, in SQL Server classes, you learned by default index is created on primary key and unique columns. Primary key will create a clustered index and unique column will create your non-clustered index. But rest of other columns, if you want index, you require to create your own index. I want to create an index on this column, guys. So I'm also using index. My index is giving error. Any different namespace? Is it removed or what? Oh, we did not install NT framework, huh? Yeah, actually, the first step, you remember, the first step is required to install NT framework. We skipped out that, yeah, that's where we got there. Tools, NuGet package manager, manage NuGet packages for solution, browse, entity framework. Yeah, someone posting questions in the group yesterday. I saw it. I said, the version number 6.4.4, not 6.0.9. What is version number? 6.4.4. That's what? EF6 is what you will see. Scroll down. You will not see on the top. Scroll down, you will see. Install. Okay. accept. Yeah. So earlier the index is giving error, but now there is no error because I set up this also. Yeah, what next? I want a property called address. I want a property called as address. So public string address get set, get and set. I want the max length as 1000. Or you can use max length also. You can use string length also. Both are same here. I don't know why they given you two options to you. But max length, string length, both are same only. You can just use a string length also like this. String length of 1000. That is also same. Max length and string length both are same. Next. Column. I don't want to change the column name, but I want to change the data type. I don't want to change the column name, but I want to change the data type. Okay. Then type what? Type name is equals to varchar. The type name is equals to varchar. So I'm not changing the column name, but I'm changing the data type. So what is the column name? Column name will be address only. Okay. Guys, we are missing a primary key column, right? And what did I say? A column order will be default order. Primary key column will be moved to the top. Actually, I want to show you that one. That's all. That's why I want to give my primary key column name here. Public int SID get set. Get set. I'm saying public int. Sorry. What is the customer ID? I'm sorry. Public int customer ID. And here also we are missing. What we are missing? The default convention. It should be either ID or customer ID. But what did you give? Cust ID. So compulsory on the top you should write key. And also I don't want auto generation. What should I write? Database generated. Database generated option dot none. I don't want a auto generation. Okay. So guys, when the table is getting created, watch it, and this customer ID will automatically go to the top. The customer ID will automatically go to the top. What next? What next here? I'm writing public int SID get set. I'm writing public int SID get set. Actually, this is going to be my foreign key now. This is going to be my foreign key actually. It should be my foreign key. Okay. Next, we need a navigation property. Scalar or collection? Scalar. How do you write? Public supplier get set. Get and set. Guys, listen. When you're defining this, you can tell what should be the foreign key column name also. You can tell what is the foreign key column. How can I tell, On the top of the navigation property, I can use foreign key. And here I can tell what is the foreign key column name. SID. Watch it. SID is what I used here. And here I'm writing SID is my foreign key column. So for this one, SID will be the foreign key column now. So this is how I can tell all my conventions. Still we have here. We'll see. We'll learn. Hold on. Do you have any doubts with the things what I explained? Anything? Any doubt about key? Database generated. Next. Max length. Column name and type name. And here what we used. Here extra what I used is index. Required. I used index. I used required. And the new thing is string length is same as max length only. And additionally foreign. So my domain classes are ready now. Sorry. Model classes are ready. One more thing is required. What is that? Context class. Let's define the context class, all of you. Class. I want to name it as company DB. Yesterday we got store DB, na? So today let us create a company DB, company database. Company DB context, company DB context. Okay. Now guys, all of you watch it. This should inherit from DB context. Error. What is the namespace? System dot data dot entity. System dot data dot entity is a namespace what we should import. Next. Constructor. Coming to a constructor. Is the constructor name mandatory if my connection string name is company DB context? Already in the last class I explained, you remember? If you are going to give the key name as company DB context, not mandatory. No, I don't want to give it as company DB context. I want to give a different name now, then mandatory. Outright, public, company DB context, colon, base, and here you're required to specify the name of your connection string. I want to give a connection string with the name called as constr. So remember guys, the connection string name is not company DB context. What is the connection string name? Constr is the name what I'm planning to give. Fine. And then the two DB set properties. Public, DB set, which type? Supplier type, name, suppliers, get and set. Public, DB set, which type? Customer type, customers, get and set. Done with this also. So first step, install NT framework. Second step, domain classes completed. Third step, connection string in the config file. You require to write the connection string in the config file. Web.config. Connection strings. Add. Name is equals to. What is the name we planned for? constr. Connection string is equals to provider name. Or the provider system dot data dot SQL client. System dot data dot SQL client. What is the connection string? Data source is equals to server. User ID is equals to SA. Password is equals to 123. And database is equals to. What is the name of the database you're planning? I want my database as company DB. Write the same thing. Company DB. Sir, my context class name is company DB context. Can I change the database name? Yes, you can change. What name you give here, that is important. General convention we follow. What convention? Database name and context class name should be same as a convention. That's all, not a rule. Here, if I give the database name as XYZ, remember the database name will be XYZ only, not company DB. What is used here, that name is important, not the context class name. But the general convention what we follow, database name, context class name, always we try to match the names. But that is not at all a rule. Okay? Now tell me, all the domain classes are ready? Yes or not? Sir, when these tables and all these things will be created, all these things will be created, provided you try to perform some CRUD operation on the table. You try to perform some CRUD operation on the table, like a select operation or a insert operation or a update operation or a delete operation. Last class, I shown you how to create the views, controllers for all these things now. Can you do that on this now? You do it. I'm not showing you. Array, I shown you each and everything. I type A to Z and shown you. What are the things we used in the last? Categories and here, what is the parent now? Supplier. What is the child now? Customer. I'm leaving this to you. You create the supplier controller, customer controller, and start writing up all the action methods and the views. I only want to show you like tables getting created. I only want to show you tables getting created. For that reason, what I'll do is I will try to insert some records manually into that so that automatically these tables will be created off for you. Okay, let's see that. Let's see. Let me add one controller in the project. Add controller. Give some name. We'll just name it as supplier controller. Any name here. Supplier controller. Import the model namespace MVC with EF2 dot models. Import the model namespace. Now do one thing. I'll leave the index action method because you write all these things here. I'm just only going to perform one insert operation so that database will be generated for me. Create the context class name, context instance. Company DB context DC is equals to new. Company DB context. I am trying to insert all these things manually. Simply supplier S1 is equals to new supplier. SID 101. Supplier name something. I'll give some name here. Okay, just have a look. I created 4 suppliers. ID, name. Something like Ashok Distributors, Magna Distributor, Diamond Distributor, something. I just given some names now. Okay. What? For inserting a record, what are the 3 steps? Create the instance. Second, add them to the table. Add them to the table. DC dot suppliers dot add. Add what? S1. Repeat. S2, S3, S4. Finally, last step. Save changes. Save changes. When I call save changes, automatically the data should be saved to the database. Guys, when you run this, it will launch a blank view. I'm only creating a blank view. I said you do all the things. I'm only going to show you database creation, tables creation, that only I'm showing you. That's why I'm not doing the rest of the things. I'm leaving it to you. So right click on the index, add a view. Blank view, nothing I'm doing here. Just a blank view is what I'm just using. Or otherwise, if you want, do one thing. What's it? DC dot suppliers. What's it? Once the insert is completed, I want to display them on my view now. Once the insert is completed, I want to display them on my view now. So what I'm passing? The suppliers that I'm passing. So come here. @model I enumerable MVC with dot models dot supplier, and here create the view to show all the suppliers data. I can design it like this. Yeah, just a second. I never showed you this option. I'll show you a new thing. Just watch. Watch this. I never shown you this option. Right click on the index. Add view. Every day you're manually writing the views now. Okay. Just add. I'll show you an option here. Your template is there. By default, you'll have empty. And if you change what are you selecting? Correct? Go for details. It will ask you the model class name. Tell the model class. What is the model class? Supplier. It will ask you the context class name. Tell the context class. What is the context class? MVCDB context. Okay. I selected all these options and click on add. No. Error is project not build. I already said, you remember when you're adding the views, build your project, otherwise you'll get error. I done the same mistake. I did not build the project. Rebuild. Again, let's repeat the process. Right click, add view. Template is details, model class is supplier, context class is MVCDB context, click add. I think not details here. No, not details. Details means single record, not details. List. I'm sorry, we have one more option called list. Details is view. This details is equivalent to our view. Not this option then. Just a minute. Right click, add view. Details means single record here. For multiple records, we need to select list. This will create your edit view. This will create your insert view. This will create your delete view. This is single record view. Okay now? What should I use? List, guys. Sorry, list. Class is supplier. Context is the same. Add. The view is generated for using. See the first line. What do you have? IEnumerable. You can use this here. Going forward, you can use this so that basic things it will write. You can go now and modify the things. You can go now and modify. You want to create an editor, choose edit option, edit view will come. Choose details option, choose delete option, delete will come. Choose create option. And all these are linked with each other now. You don't require to write any coding. Everything is automatically linked with each other. You can try it if you want. Okay. Come on, let us run the index. Now, is the database existing in the SQL server? No, we know what databases are present already. Company DB is not existing. What we have is store DB yesterday, but company DB is not existing. Come on, let's run the index. And you can see all these conventions, everything, whatever we discussed, everything gets followed now. Let it open. Yeah, guys. By default, the ID is not shown here. If you want to edit it, what is it showing is only name. You can add a edit view, you can add a delete view, you can add a details view, you can add a. I also showed the same thing to you every day here, but I given it different names like view. For details, I given it as view. Edit is edit only, delete is delete only. For create view, we will add a new. I just changed the text, otherwise I would done the same thing only. Okay. This is not important for us. So what's important is, come here, go to the databases, refresh once. Created a check out the table names, customer, supplier. Varchar of 100. Got it? Customer. Customer ID, primary key. Balance. See the data, money. Customer name. Varchar of it. Address. Varchar of 1000. Yes ID. My foreign key. Okay. Now come below, guys. Watch this also. By default, you'll have an index on ID. Why? Primary key column will always have a index. Now you have an index on customer name also, see now? Because we said index on that, no. There is an index on the customer ID. Customer, see, see, first thing is, listen, customer ID. This has an index. What index? Clustered index. Watch it. Okay. Next, one index is created on customer name. And it SQL Server also creates an index on the foreign key. This is the foreign key. How many clustered are they allowed? One. Non-clustered? 249 or 999? The maximum number of indexes on the table are 250 here. 250. So one is clustered. Remaining 249 non-clustered. 999 or 249 because when I thought SQL Server, remember 250 from since 5 years I'm not teaching SQL Server. So maybe if it changed, I don't know. Okay, then. I'm wrong then. Maybe it changed. Okay, basically that's what. Earlier it is 250 only. I think it changed it to 1000 then. Okay, so one is the clustered, remaining all are non-clustered. Is that clear? So everything is created for you automatically in this particular place. So according to what I defined there. So are you clearer, guys? What you defined, the same thing came to you right now in your application. Okay, now. So these are the how you override the conventions. Going forward, we will try overriding. And I'm telling you guys, going forward, don't expect me to tell you about action methods and views again and again. I will only tell you model classes, context class. I will try performing one cron operation and I'll go and show you, yes, the database is created. Rest of the things you are responsible from now. I've shown you plenty of examples to you till now creating the context, till now creating the action methods, views and all. Continue that. Okay, I won't show you going forward. I'll only show you what? Context classes, domain classes, database creation. Up to that extent only I'll show you. Lot of features are there. Going forward, we'll learn about it. Okay, let's stop here. We'll meet tomorrow.